What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Scott Proctor, alongside, as always, my guy, Matt Morris. We're back with another episode of Simple Question, but this time we'll have more than one because we got a special guest joining us today. He covers the Denver Broncos as a senior writer for the Mile High Report, Joe Rowles. Thanks for joining us, my man. How we doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing, man. It's a great time to be talking Broncos football right now. I'll open things up this way. What's the expectation for this franchise, armed with a new, former Super Bowl winning quarterback, a new head coach, and a division that is completely loaded with quarterbacks and great teams? What is the expectation surrounding the franchise right now? And is that expectation what it should be?
I would say the expectation is at least the playoffs. And I would say, at least for me and kind of in the circles I've talked to people, at least a playoff win would be a successful season.
Sure.
The AFC is looking tough enough that I think if that's that's all that happens, that's still a pretty good year. But failing to make the playoffs would be not great at this point.
Seriously.
No, it wouldn't. And obviously, whenever you make moves like that to give away first-round draft picks, the draft becomes a big talking point at this point. So I've seen you've been studying up and you pay attention a lot to what the Denver Broncos are doing for the draft. Where do you think they go with 64, and how important is it to at least hit on one of those, second or third round guys just because you don't have the first round pick this year?
Yeah, I think it's huge. The Broncos are kind of in a position at this point where they don't necessarily have to take any one position at 64, which is kind of the beauty of what Peyton did in free agency. Mm-hmm. Signed a lot of veterans to one-year contracts, and then the two splashy moves, which was Randy Gregory and DJ Jones. At this point, I would say the Broncos' biggest remaining needs, they need edge rushers, just because Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory, between the two of them, have been healthy for one full season. And that was Bradley Chubb's rookie year. So that was 4 years ago now. So that's still a need. They never really replaced Shelby Harris at 5 technique. So when they're in their base defense, their defensive end to replace him as of right now is Deshaun Williams, who signed a 1-year contract, and McTelvin Ajim, who has played less than 300 snaps since he was drafted in the 3rd round 2 years ago. Granted, in a nickel league, it's not as big of a concern, but they could definitely still use help on the defensive front. They're looking at moving Baron Browning to edge. And by doing so, right now, it looks like Jonas Griffith and Alex Singleton will battle it out to be one of the 2 linebackers. That's a position that could definitely use another body, probably. And they have visited with Chad Muma from Wyoming. He is somebody who, if he's there at 64, makes sense. He might not be there at 64. Looking on the other side of the ball, the biggest needs are backup running back, depending on how the team feels about Mike Boone. Mike Boone signed a free agent deal out of Minnesota last year, got hurt early, and didn't really do much on offense outside of the one Chiefs game. Melvin Gordon was not re-signed. So as of right now, he is their second running back behind Javonte Williams. There's a decent chance the Broncos have brought in a few running backs on pre-draft visits. They could be drafting one. I don't think that'll be 64, but it could be. And then the other position is obviously tight end. Noah Fant was traded to Seattle as part of the Russell Wilson trade. Right now, Albert Okwuegbunam is their backup tight end, or their starting tight end now. Behind him, they have Eric Tomlinson, who is a journeyman who's played for 6 different teams, has 18 career catches across, I think it's 7 seasons. I don't have the number right in front of me. Behind him is Sean Byer, who the team was very high on. He was the second highest paid undrafted free agent rookie last year, but he was on the practice squad all year. So he hasn't done anything yet in the league. So their tight end room, between Alberto and Eric Tomlinson, they have 44 catches and 18 career catches. They're probably going to be taking a tight end early-ish, 64 or 75, I would expect a tight end.
Interesting. That makes a lot of sense. I would be surprised if they went the running back route at 64, just with how awesome Javonte Williams looks to be. And tight end, I don't think is big of a problem. I think, as you know, Albert O is a talented pass catcher and player. And Russell Wilson, throughout his career, obviously, he's just been one place in Seattle, but he hasn't been the type of quarterback who relies too much on tight ends, it seems. And obviously, that receiving core is certainly more than talented. But I want to talk a little bit about the defense, Joel, because this unit was pretty damn good last year. They allowed just 18.9 points per game. last season, which was third best in the NFL. With the addition of Gregory and Jones that you mentioned, and hopefully better injury luck on that side of the ball. Is it fair to assume that this unit can be even better than it was last year, or is that not really realistic with how well they played?
I would say the Broncos defense can definitely be better than it was last year, but I think the scoring defense will be worse.
Okay.
Just being that good at scoring defense, that was kind of a Fangio thing. The Broncos defense in 2020 was also very good in the red zone. And this is kind of where, the numbers start to get kind of weird. The Broncos last year, they were 20th in Football Outsiders DVOA stat, which measures efficiency. And then they were 15th in EPA per play, which is estimated points added. And then in terms of raw yards and stuff, they were pretty bad. But that said, the scoring defense was really good. But after the Von Miller trade last year in November, the Broncos pass rush just completely fell off a cliff. Fangio was dialing up a lot of games, and that was kind of helping to hide it. Yeah. But they signed Gregory. The hope has to be that Bradley Chubb is healthy. Last year was the most banged up he's been in his career to this point, and it showed on the field. So if those two were even healthy, I would say 14 games together, it almost has to be better. And then you look at the secondary. The secondary is pretty much intact. They lost Bryce Callahan, so the cornerback room doesn't have the same depth that it had last year. But Patrick Surtain looked like a top 10 corner as a rookie, and I don't say that lightly. He looked very good.
He's that, yes, for 100%. I was very high on him coming into the draft, coming into last season, and he proved it. Multiple points. Agreed.
Yeah. I expect him to only improve again if he stays healthy. Ronald Darby is kind of a wild card. Ronald Darby was pretty good. I would say he was hovering around, above average when he was healthy. But the Broncos signed him 2 years ago off the one full season of his career. So at this point, you kind of expect him to miss a little bit of time somewhere. Yeah. And the Broncos' depth is kind of a question mark at corner. If they stay healthy, I think this defense will be better overall than it was last year. Although, like I said, I do think that they will allow a bit more points just because other teams will have to score more to keep up with the offense.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and you mentioned the offense, and they're going to be scoring a lot, but they also have to go up against, in particular, that division. That's a lot of high-octane offense, and we were looking at your Twitter, which is a great follow. But I like your pinned tweet where it's the AFC West is just like a desolate, like it looks like a war zone. I mean, what does the AFC West, when you talk about it now and you think about it, what comes to mind, and how crazy is going to be to see all these, 4 playoff teams compete against each other for what looks to be the best division in football?
It's early. Like, we got to kind of see how health luck plays out. But at least on paper right now, this looks like one of the best divisions I've ever covered. And I've been following the NFL pretty closely since 2003. I mean, I think the Chiefs probably took a step back a little bit just because of the Tyreek Hill trade. And kind of like they were pretty inactive in free agency, but at the same time, Andy Reid has been doing this before Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. Like, it's not like he forgot how to, coach offense. So I expect them to still be good as long as Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are healthy. The Chargers are kind of everybody's darling, but for good reason. Justin Herbert may be every bit as good as Mahomes.
Yep.
And they had the cap space to go out and do some pretty aggressive moves, and they still have money. The Khalil Mack trade, shoring up their defensive line, grabbing J.C. Jackson should help their secondary. Their biggest question for the Chargers at this point is right tackle, which is ironic in a way, just because the entire AFC West kind of has a question at right tackle, and they all have pass rushers. As far as the Raiders go, people kind of sleep on Derek Carr in my mind. Derek Carr is like a borderline top 10 quarterback, and he has been for years now. Maybe somewhere in that 12-9 range, depending on the year, but he's consistently in that kind of that range. And now all of a sudden he's got Devontae Adams and him and Darren Waller. People forget Darren Waller was banged up for a big chunk of last year. So I think the Raiders are going to be every bit as in it, because also Graham fixes their defense in a way that Bradley didn't. And again, this is not to hate on Bradley. He knows more about coaching than I ever will. But his scheme was very, very static in terms of cover 3 shells, middle of the field coverage shells. So against teams like the Chiefs, and then again, also Justin Herbert, it was easy for them to find ways to get rid of the ball and create explosive plays. That will not be the case going forward, because Graham is one of the more versatile, like he mixes it up. and he's going to throw wrenches at you. So I think the Raiders are going to be quite good. It wouldn't surprise me, again, barring health luck. It wouldn't surprise me if every team in the division is right around at least 7 wins, probably all of them better.
100%. No, you're absolutely right. And I'm glad you said what you said about Derek Carr, because we both, I think, agree with that he is a guy that consistently has been very good, but just hasn't, gotten the love that he probably deserves.
Especially with Darren Waller, like you mentioned, missing half the season. So we completely agree. We're in lockstep on the division. Probably last question we got for you, Joe. This is one of mine that I'm curious about, looking at this Denver Broncos receiving core, which I loved last season. Wasn't really rewarded with reaping the benefits of that. I thought Cortland Sutton was shut out of many games when he shouldn't have been, in terms of just not getting the targets that a talent like he deserves. But what do you think about this receiving core, and specifically, who would you pinpoint as one guy that you think would kind of take over as wide receiver one, kind of emerge from this group? Because obviously, like I mentioned, I love Cortland Sutton. Jerry Jeudy is a hell of a player. Tim Patrick doesn't drop footballs. And obviously, Albert O will be involved as well. And KJ Hamler is a speedster as well. Which one receiving those receivers would you kind of pinpoint as the one that you think would kind of, take most of a liking to Russell Wilson and kind of be that guy, that pass catcher in this offense?
So there's a little bit of a hedge, just because it's hard to choose between Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton in the new offense.
Yeah.
Just because Russell Wilson he is one of the best deep ball throwers in the league. He does not throw over the middle of the field as much as previous Broncos quarterbacks do.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to impact Jerry Jeudy, just in terms of, I think his numbers will look better than they did last year, just because he had 0 touchdowns, and that was insane. His separation quickness is good enough that he should be able to receive targets anyway. But if he's playing out of the slot, the stuff that he was going to be doing the most of is like dagger routes, stuff over the middle. That's not really what Russell Wilson has shown that he's comfortable with. Right. So kind of similar to what you mentioned before with the tight ends. I don't know if necessarily he's going to be the number one receiver, whereas Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick are both jump ball guys. They are going to win at the catch point. Right now, I feel like I trust Tim Patrick more, just based on kind of the reactions I've seen between Tim Patrick, Russell Wilson, like on Twitter, stuff like that, but I haven't seen him in games.
Right.
On this side of it, I feel like Tim Patrick is probably going to be the best value if you're looking to do like a fantasy draft this early. But Cortland Sutton is definitely the other guy to keep an eye on.
100%. No, that makes sense. This was very insightful, Joe. And this was awesome stuff. Thanks so much for joining us. Go follow Joe and his great work on Twitter. And catch us on the next episode of Simple Question. But that's going to do it for us for this one. For Scott Proctor, Matt Morris, our guy Joe Rowles. We'll see you next time on Simple Question.